Hey guys, how you doing? Having a beautiful day here. Sunday. I usually walk around and do these recordings, but there's like a million people around right now, so it's very awkward. So I figure, hey, nice time on the porch. Yesterday I did a video about Doug Ford, but I didn't actually touch on something that I think is actually really crucial and pretty pivotal. Pivotal. There you go. New word for you. Pivotal. Pivotal. Um, the sick days kind of fiasco that's going on, right? When the sick days thing started to happen, I saw the NDP really pounding on the pulpit about sick days, and they kept hitting sick days. Why don't we have any sick days? People need sick days during this, and I thought that was kind of small scale stuff. But and so I didn't comment on it. But now it's getting to the point where it has to be commented on, and it has to be commented on by somebody like me who, hi, I'm the Canadian commie. I think capitalism is a failed system. I don't think it works. I think it's unreformable. And the more and more I see it, the more and more I see that this sick days conversation is actually completely endemic of that point, of that sort of general thesis. I am seeing more and more people from the medical community, especially as we get into this third wave, and especially as we see younger and younger people getting sick with these new variants of COVID, which are going to completely obliterate the whole vaccination experiment that we're doing. But the medical community is starting to tweet and starting to kind of take matters into their own hands, so to speak, in order to tell the world and tell their communities that the simple act of giving people sick days, not only would it save us a lot of money, right? It would be the most efficient way to help deal with COVID. And so for example, I saw one tweet. This fellow, he said, so we had 4 nurses, 2 doctors, a bed, an incubator. All of this equipment cost thousands and thousands of dollars to do, to help deal with a fellow who caught COVID because he wasn't able to isolate himself or go home after his wife's workplace had a COVID scare. And so he contracted COVID. And the guy just basically said, like, look, if this guy had stayed home 2 days, right? It's a minimum wage job he's working, right? You do the math, it's a couple $100, right? To keep this guy home. Compare that to all of the resources it took to deal with him, plus the impact to his own personal health, right? The fact that he's not going to be able to join the workforce for some time, the fact that it's going to take him a long time to recover, all of these things. Financially speaking, it doesn't make any sense. Why don't people have paid sick days? And then he ends the tweet by saying, we have lost our way. Yeah, I would say that that's pretty accurate, that we lost our way a couple hundred years ago. And anytime we try and find our way back, the Americans like to bomb people, right? So the idea that they're not going to erect a police state around you to protect capital is sort of silly. And that's fundamentally what we're talking about, right? That the core reason, the unstated reason that Doug Ford is not allowing people to have paid sick days is because the cruelty is the point, right? That the cruelty is the point, because you have to keep people in their place, and you have to reign with fear, and you have to reign with that iron fist way of being. If you are a capitalist, you have to. It's you can't simply say, okay, yeah, we'll give you these benefits, we'll give you these things, because if you have a populace that suddenly starts to realize, oh, wait a minute, you mean we can demand things of our political class and they'll actually do them? Well, wait a minute, why are we working so much? Why? Who are these capitalists we're working for? Like, who are these people? What do they do? What's their job? Oh, it's nothing. It's literally nothing. Oh, they're worthless parasites that have parasticize the society and who suck away all our productivity and jam them into offshore accounts, even though they lied to us for the last 40 years and told us that they were going to actually reinvest back into the societies, which they're not doing in any way. And when they do, it's to like erect pedophile sex rings and things like this. Oh, if you're one of these people who jumps out of these videos around now, please leave a like, please leave a subscription, please send these things around, right? We need more leftist voices in the world. We need more people calling out the capitalist structure for what it is, which is a death cult, right? It is a death cult. How do we know it's a death cult? Because they're not giving people sick days in the middle of a pandemic, right? And they're not giving people sick days in the middle of a pandemic because they know it weakens their position, right? Their position is to use barbarous cruelty, right? To threaten people with starvation, to threaten people with homelessness, to say, if you don't participate in this capitalist system, you die, right? Like, you don't get to have food and shelter. And they don't care if people have to go work in disease-ridden areas. They don't care if people have to put their lives at risk, put their health and safety at risk. They obviously don't care about that. If they did, they'd give people sick days, right? But the capitalist class is not interested in protecting the populace. The populace is disposable, right? They view the it's like when Stephen Harper called us all old stock, right? That's how they see us. They see us as stock, right? That we are just numbers on a paper, right? That we can be deployed and redeployed however the capitalist class sees fit. And if we don't actually participate, then we don't get food and shelter. And so they're not going to start giving us benefits. They're not going to start saying, oh yeah, okay, you can have sick days, right? Even in the middle of an emergency, because they know that if they start giving us benefits, or if they start giving us a way to survive in a society without fully selling ourselves to a capitalist class, that they know that eventually we'll put together that the capitalists are irrelevant, right? Like this is the thing that I think is shocking that I don't hear more people say. Like, these guys are irrelevant. That not only are they completely they're not zero in our society, right? They're not doing nothing, but what they're doing is evil, right? They're doing evil things in our society that hold us back, that keep us from actually growing, that keep us from actually living in safe, stable societies, right? Like, they'll happily erect a police state around us, which is exactly what they're doing. And they'll happily hire people who they'll happily train in order to just, gun down black people, right? To suppress minority groups, to suppress socialist groups, right? They'll happily do that. But hey, can we give people 5-10 sick days in the middle of a pandemic? Nope. Can't do that. Can't do that. That's a bridge too far. That's a bridge too far. Because capitalists require by their very nature, like the very existence of a single capitalist means that they have to use extraordinary force. They have to use extraordinary force because they know what happens, right? They understand how worthless they are. They understand how easy it would be to depose them. There's this great movie, DreamWorks' A Bug's Life. I'm really standing on firm ground when I'm quoting from children's movies, but A Bug's Life actually just lays it all out. It's not a mystery, right? It's not complex. The capitalists make it complex. They make it mysterious. They make it difficult because they know that the more difficult they make it seem, the less likely it is for the populace to actually get together and say, wait a minute, these capitalists, they need to go, right? But in A Bug's Life, it's very clear. And the lead, it's the ants all do the work, right? They do all the work, and then the grasshoppers come and they take all the food for themselves, right? And there's this great scene. I believe the lead grasshopper is played by James Wood, and he does a great job of it. And he straight up, he states it. He's like, look, if these ants figure out that they're the ones doing all the work and that we're stealing their work and that there's more of them than there are of us, and if they figure this out and they just fight back, right, we're done. And that's exactly what happens in the story. And there's this wonderful moment where the lead ant, who's played by one of the kids in the hall, I forget his name, David, I think, it's one of the Davids. Anyway, he says straight to them, he says, hey, there's more of us than there are of you. And then he realizes, and you know that, right? And that's just it. That's the reason why they can't pass sick days. That's the reason why they can't give benefits to the populace. That's the reason why capitalists can't actually do anything to help the society. Because if they start to actually govern, and if they start to actually give benefits to the society, and if they start to actually act as though we are all equals, and we are all in this together, and we are all actually on the same path, right? If they start to act that way, well, then people are going to start asking very simple, obvious, straightforward questions. Why are we doing all of the work and getting none of the benefits? Why are we being paid survival wages while people we've never met are just jamming money into offshore accounts in the hundreds of billions of dollars? Why are we participating in this system that refuses to even protect us from the most basic and the most simplistic and the most obvious things that any rational, forward-thinking, civilized society would actually protect its citizens from? Like, we don't live in a civil society. Like we don't. We live in a society that's pretending to be a civil society, right? It's like we're playing dress up. It's like we're playing pretend every single day. And our doctors and our nurses are starting to realize it. They're starting to see it, because how could you not? How could you not? The absolute absurdity and the absolute obscenity of what is actually happening to our doctors and nurses. Like, these people are going to walk out of this with massive levels of PTSD. And when they actually get together and they start to strike and they start to organize, I fully support them. They should strike. They should organize, right? When this pandemic is finally over, let's let the doctors take over, right? We all applaud them and we say that they're heroes and we say that they're oh, thank God for them and all of this kind of stuff. But as long as they sit in their hospitals and they stay silent, right? They don't actually involve themselves politically. These people should take over the society. They should get rid of these capitalists. Like, they should get rid of these capitalists. I don't mean negotiate with these capitalists. I don't mean communicate and try to get piecemeal reform from these capitalists. I mean that they should sit the capitalists down and say, your time of rule is over. We're taking your assets and you're no longer part of the society. Just like those little ants did to the grasshoppers, right? They didn't say to the grasshoppers, okay, well, instead of you taking all of the food, we'll let you take 10% of the food. No, the grasshoppers were told to slag off. And that's what we should do to these capitalists, without the shadow of a doubt. Because as long as we let these capitalists, as long as they let the grasshoppers rule, the capitalists will rule with cruelty, barbarism, and force, because they have to, because that's who they are. And they're going to continue doing it until we get together, realize that there's way more of us than there are of them, and just get rid of these guys. Then we can get our sick days. Hey, maybe we can do the 4-day work week. How about that? Maybe we can actually build a civil society that actually works for the benefit of all, instead of the benefit of, 10, 20 people. Anyway, this is the end of this video, guys. I hope you're doing well out there. I genuinely hope you're doing well. There's scary stories coming out of this stuff, and these COVID variants are ridiculous. And my own friends have experienced COVID scares, and there's no reprieve in sight, right? The Ford administration doesn't care about you. The Trudeau government cares even less, honestly. We need to restructure our society, and restructure it in a way that tells you exactly what I'm going to tell you now. You're wonderful. You're beautiful. You're doing great. Good luck. We're going to need it.